Good morning. It is Wednesday morning, February 21st. And I wanted to put this little lesson together just in case anybody missed the lesson for today. But I also want to do a little bit of showing you how to bring everything together that I've taught you today. So if you missed today's lesson, you can go into Google Classroom and you can click on the 2017-18 Argumentative Research 3-week unit slideshow, and you can find some of the slides here that I'm about to show you. We talked already today about, we watched this video, so you can watch the video, but then we talked about plagiarism and just reminded each other what that was all about. And then we talked about paraphrasing again, which isn't new, just a reminder for you. I showed everybody all these memes, and we talked about what they have in common. And what they have in common is that they are all citing sources, or giving credit. And so we then discussed what citing sources really means and how to do that. And I showed a couple of examples here. And then we took a little bit of a closer look by just kind of breaking down if this was a sentence in somebody's essay, looking at the different parts. So we have the according to, the actual citation, which means the source, and then the information that was found on that source is in blue, the paraphrase or the quote. And that's how and then there's the date at the end, the date that this information was found on this website. If that all makes sense. You can watch that a few times. We talked about who you need to cite, and then we talked about how to cite. And so in your packet you have, on page 16, you have this sheet here, which can be really helpful for you and give you some of those linking words that you need to phrase things correctly in a way that makes sense. So what I want to do real quick is just show you a little bit of a live example. I started thinking about that youth sports and whether or not they're too intense, and I wrote this claim statement: the intensity level of youth sports is important. And then the reason Dylan's name was up here is because I actually looked at one of his sources, and he had this article as a source, and so I'm going to use that as my example today. See, I just grabbed the link from his note sheet, and I don't need that anymore, but I just started looking at this article, and I want to go back to my claim, the intensity level of sports is important. And I can make up a reason too, like what is the reason that the intensity level is important. But because I don't know what Dylan put, I'm just going to kind of read a little bit and see if I can figure it out. I'm noticing this chunk here. It's a quote. When you do sports as a kid, Rogler says, you learn how to win and how to lose. You learn what it's like to put in lots of work and have things not turn out terrifically. And you learn what it feels like to put in a lot of work and then win. I think you can't teach those lessons, she says. You have to experience them. I wonder who Rogler is. I better go up and check here. Amy Rogler and her husband, Octavio Herrera, live with their young kids, Jake and Alyssa. So she's a mom of young athletes. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my slide here. My reason is going to be that the intensity, hard work teaches lessons that must be experienced. So that kind of goes along with the idea about how, that intensity level is important, because hard work is intense. Hard work can be very intense. And so I found some evidence, and if I go back to this quote down here, when you do sports as a kid, you learn how to win and lose. You learn what it's like to put in lots of work, and have things not turn out terrifically. And you learn what it feels like to put in a lot of work and then win. So I could just copy this whole thing, and I could paste it here. I know it turns out all funky, but That's easy to fix. Not important right now, I guess. So I could leave the quote like that. Now, if I wanted to actually bring this into my paragraph, you know, I have a whole paragraph here. Hard work teaches lessons that must be experienced. I would not just go straight into this quote from there. Okay, I would need to gradually bring people into it. So that's where these things really come in handy. So I could possibly use this one, according to blank, and then put in the quote. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, according to Amy, what was it? Oh, it's right here. R-O-E Rogler, a mom of young athletes. When you do sports as a kid, Rogler says, oh, and I'm going to delete this now because I don't need the Rogler says in the middle. You learn how to win and lose. You learn what it's like to put in lots of hard work and have things not turn out perfectly. And you learn what it feels like to put a lot of work and then win. Now I'm going to go back to the source, and you would have all this recorded on your note sheet, but I'm looking at the date here. This is 2015. So at the very end, I put in 2015, and I put the period after the parentheses. All right. So all of this now is written in a way that makes sense. It flows from one idea. This is my idea. And now I'm introducing somebody else's idea. And the quotation marks are really important. Oh, and look at that. I don't have end quotes. See, this is why we look over our work. There we go. The quotes are really important because then your reader knows that those were the exact words from the article, right? And then the date in there is also really important. One thing I'm missing is that, you know, I mentioned according to Amy Rogler, but Amy Rogler is not the source exactly. She is a source that this source mentioned. And so I actually need to have something a little bit more in here. This is from Sports and Health in America. That's kind of the name of the article. And the author of this article is Patty Neigman. So actually, I need to add in Patty's name back here. N-E-I-G, what was it? N-E-I-G-H-M-O-N-D. And the reason I have to do that is because I didn't mention Neigman's name in the quote. And remember that your works cited list or your reference list is going to be in order by author's name. And so if someone is to find out where this quote came from, the name Amy Rogler is not going to help them. They need this. So these two things get attached to the end of the quote. You have to have the name of the source and the date mentioned in there somewhere. And if you don't put it into the actual sentence from here to here, then it needs to be attached at the end. And that's how you do a citation. So, if you have any more questions, there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of places that you can go to kind of look for help and resources. So all you have to do is type in APA citation help. We are using APA format, not MLA format or any other kind. APA citation help. And of course, you can ask me as well. Okay, thanks. Good job. Good luck.